okay, like that may be true for that person, but what's true for me? You are still a different breed that you have to discover, and that is your responsibility. That is your responsibility. Your self discovery is your contribution to the world, and that is your responsibility. Yo. Hey y'all, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I don't have an intro yet, so if people have bars, please drop them below so that we can have a nice flow, ooh, and be ready to go. Ooh. Alright, that's what I got. What you got? Welcome to my channel where we're talking health and we're talking growth. Topic of the day is living in your own terms. Trust me, this one, grab your notebook, okay? I have actually two, and I'll be getting into this one later, so you'll get the hang of it. But, my hair is tight. We're going in. We going in, fam. So, I'm waiting. Meanwhile, let me tie my hair up. So tonight we're talking living in your own terms, and that's something that we should constantly be reminded and just constantly be re-evaluating, because we live in a world that is not only very geared towards distractions, but we are very incited on everybody's life. We have access to different opinions through our phones 24/7, so we're constantly being advertised with opinions that are different from our own, or just different points of view, perspectives, you name it, different lifestyle that sometimes don't reflect our own, but we are still absorbing them without necessarily realizing. It could be easy to just start reframing your own normal based on someone else's standards, based on someone else's point of view. And so that being said, it's how do we understand how to place ourselves and navigate within that, but not lose track of what's true to us, our core values, right? And this is actually the first question of the night, is what are your core values, right? So you can write them down. Actually write it down. You don't have to write the core values today. You can wait after the video, or like pause the video. I mean, you do your thing. I'm not gonna tell you what to do. I'm just saying that you could probably do it after watching the video, after the completion of the watch. What are your core values, right? That's something we don't ask ourselves enough. We often think that we have a good grasp of our core values, but little do we know, like, when we feel out of line, when we feel off, oftentimes it's because we've been acting away from our core values, right? Just as easy as it is to do, it's also really hard for us to bring awareness in those moments and actually center back of, okay, was I acting within my values? And just reflecting on this, right? Because oftentimes why we feel off is because the actions don't necessarily match, say, the words, and they don't necessarily match our thoughts, right? So how do we think of ourselves? What do we think we would like to achieve? What do we think we would like to be doing, right? That doesn't necessarily always match, and we often fall into the expectations of other people. So whether that is someone else's standards on dressing up, someone else's standards on showing up for themselves, or going out with friends, socializing, you name it, okay? We often fall trapped to those, or even say beauty standards. And where that actually can be triggering to us is that in those moments we actually think that we are less than by being ourselves, right? So when we fall into those traps, a lot of times is because we feel in some way threatened. There's some of our psychological needs that feel threatened, the need of belonging, so that we feel more eager to conform in some way. And not that we're all conforming to everything, it's just the same way that it's really easy to get influenced, it's also easy to lose a little bit track of your core values. And so when we don't ask ourselves a question, oftentimes we carry values that were given to us. when we don't take the time to ask ourselves the question, we may carry values that were given to us. Think about society. Think about your parents, right? So even circles of friends. So oftentimes being surrounded, we also fall into a certain influence, which isn't bad. It's just being aware with whether something is coming from you or something is coming from something you've been told, right? Being aware of, is that something you want to carry, or is that something you've been carrying because of the conformity that it runs in your family, right? So just being aware of, okay, if this is disturbing you and it's not serving you in the path that you're walking, then why are you holding on to it? Maybe your core values that are yours are not necessarily the same as the ones you've been imposed. And it's just being aware of that so you can slowly gravitate towards having a life that is more built around what you want for yourself and allows you to be in alignment with who you are, what matters to you, what makes you the character that you are. Yeah. So being in touch with your core values will allow us to make choices that also reflect where we want to go. Say for me, like, I value my health, and so for me, waking up early, waking up at 5 to get a training in if I have a meeting at 7, is something that I'll do because I know that it falls within me doing something that I value. If that's the way for me to get my training into my day, then I will do it. I'll make the steps to do it. If I'm on vacation and I'm away, I will still find ways to get in my movement because that's something that is dear to me. It's in my value system. Like, no matter where I go, this is attached to me. If you look at a week of your 24 hours and your values are not within them, like you don't see actions that reflect the values that you've stated, then you need to reevaluate your choices. And that also goes back to your pain and pleasure centers. So, if you don't know, then you can write this down. Actually, everybody should write this down. So first, what are your pain centers? And what are your pleasure centers? The reason why this is such an important exercise is that we, by nature, will try to avoid pain and gravitate towards pleasure. Like, this is just human psyche. Like, it's not like you are special and you are this exceptional being that fails to build the discipline to. It's not even about all that. You are human by nature, by default. You like pleasure, you don't like pain, period. This is it, okay? Doesn't mean that you're not responsible to do actions to get yourself to do the damn thing. But just being aware of, okay, why did you associate it with pain, right? Maybe you're trying to do something, but like say eating healthy, but you associated eating healthy to pain. How do you expect not to feel friction trying to do that now, right? So being aware first and foremost, but also being able to from there understand how to navigate. So having a list of your pain centers, having a list of your pleasure centers. Maybe in your pleasure centers, these are things that are beneficial for you, but maybe there are things that are not beneficial for you. So understanding, okay, why am I associating pleasure to this thing? Maybe it's going out on the weekend and drinking with friends until you're drunk. You're associating pleasure to it, but you want to limit it. It's going to be hard as long as you associate it with pleasure. So now how can you reframe your thoughts so that you also are able to align your behaviors with things that serve you? And you know what? Also with social media, it gets so easy to just start comparing and just fall into like all of the sex. Like, oh, if you're not doing keto, then you don't know anything about health. Or like, oh, if you're not training 15 times a week, then you ain't really about it. You gotta be hardcore. And it's easy for you to just feel like, damn, I'm not even good at being bad. I'm just terrible. I'm not good at anything. And then just fall into traps, right? From comparing. Okay, like that may be true for that person, but what's true for me? Yeah, that's something that personally was really hard. Because I'm really kind of like a achiever mentality. So I like to be able to do a lot of things. No. Shout out to the people I know me watching this that are like, Anywho, okay, hold your next. Thank you. I have the tendency to gravitate towards the doing this, doing that, doing this, doing that. I'll see something, I'm inspired, then I'll be like, I need to do it. I need to do that. That's exactly what I need to do. I didn't think I needed to cook today, but now I'm inspired and I'm gonna cook for 4 hours. This is what's gonna happen. And then like things like, oh shit, you're right. I should be training 15 times a week. What you mean? And then, like it's easy to fall into traps, and then you just have to be able to look back at yourself and say, girl, dear darling, whoever, like, is that really serving me? Me? Is that coming from me? And what's true for someone else is not necessarily true for you, right? The same way we have a lot of extremes in the world and everyone has different qualities. We can admire those qualities, but also choose what serves us. And that's something that's really important, because it's easy to get lost when we are just in a growing process. But this is why it's important to keep the things that inspire you close, but still be aware that you are a whole different breed. You heard? You are a whole different breed. It will take a lot of those various inspirations, yes. These will carry you and they will allow you to be remembered of what it is that's calling you, what it is that inspires you, right? And what it is that you want for yourself in your life. And seek high and have inspirations. But you are still a different breed that you have to discover, and that is your responsibility. That is your responsibility. Your self-discovery is your contribution to the world, and that is your responsibility. So, that being said, how do you build standards for yourself, right? So ask yourself also, what are my standards? And that's something that you should have, like, if you just grab your book and you put this should be like in the front or at the back, whichever, but something where that is accessible so you can always go back to this. Because not only first will they change, and that's okay, because you are also a changing thing. If you're not changing, you're dead. You are a changing thing. You will forever evolve and transform. But also, it's something that it's easy to forget in the moment. It's easy to forget your standards. It's easy to feel down, defeated. But just understanding that, okay, but I know I want more for myself. And I know that this is acceptable for me. This is unacceptable. And trust me, like, the world around you won't be the one to remind you. It's not their responsibility, it's yours. And that's something personally it took me a while to realize. And then I was like, yeah, like, that has to come from me. Like, and it was easier, for instance, to like feel like, oh well, they shouldn't have done this and that. They should have done that to me if they cared. But then, like, I had to also do a lot of self-reflecting. I'm like, no, that was your responsibility. Taking care of yourself is your responsibility, nobody else's, right? They're responsible for themselves. You're responsible for you. And that's something that, of course, it sounds like a harsh talk, but it's really not. It's just understanding that where there's responsibility, there's also ownership. Ooh, pun not intended, but bam. There's also ownership, and there's also ability. If I'm responsible, I'm able to make the choice that serves me. If I'm not responsible, then I'm just victim to whatever happens, and then I can just cross my fingers that it's in my favor. So it's being able to establish those standards for ourselves so that we have that relationship. We have that pact with ourselves, because at the end of the day, we are our true ally. And something that I had done, which I encourage you to do, is in one of my journals. I have a lot. In one of my journals, this is why I have it posted, I wrote down my terms. So that's really kind of like my engagement towards myself. And having that also helps me have this relationship that even if I feel, say, insufficient, I can go back to this and understand, okay, no, these are my terms. This is how you talk to yourself. Or like, these are my terms. This is how we are going to attack this situation. So when you write down your terms, you have to write them in I so that you are reading it for yourself. The more and more we build tools that allow us to connect to the qualities we want to embrace, the more we're also able to. Okay, so one of them for myself is I appreciate my appearance. As much as I love to see the effect on my body training, my success is not measured off of what my body looks like. A good look doesn't mean I'm doing great. A bad look doesn't mean I'm doing bad. I am beyond this, which I underlined. I am beyond this, which I said again. I can, which I underlined, enjoy what my body looks like and allow me to feel good, confident. But my worth and success meter is beyond this. My worth and success meter is beyond this. I do not condone worth amplification based on aesthetics. Looks are finite things that do not reflect constant inside work, growth, and attitude. I value my body. I do not let other things set my own value. So, and that's just one of them, right? And the reason why doing this is that it wasn't always easy. And it doesn't mean that I don't necessarily like struggle with looking at my body or like, dysmorphia. And yeah, that can have different intensities, of course. But all that to say that it doesn't mean that life will be all great in butterflies. It just means that you're also engaging with yourself and you know what you're engaging into. So just having that as a referral, and that could be in terms of like how you train, it could be in terms of health, it could be in terms of thoughts as well. So just allowing yourself to have this pact and commitment with yourself as you grow, right? Giving yourself those questions. So again, questions of the night. What are your core values? What are your pain and pleasure centers? Because this is how you'll see where you'll gravitate towards and what you'll gravitate away from. What are your standards? And then writing down your terms. Other questions I would love for you to think about is, first, what can I do when I feel off-centered? What can I do when I feel off-centered? Because already just knowing that it will happen is also allowing us to, in those moments, not just always feel that we have to just react. We're actually already in a state of awareness. So we're not just being attacked by, oh shit, I have this thought and now I feel negative. Oh no, I am defeated. No. We're like, all right, sure, I saw you coming. I know that I can do this and that when you come. Already there's a disruption in the thought pattern, right? And that's what you want to do with thoughts always, is if you want to limit a thought or an action, you want to interrupt the pattern. If you want to enhance a thought or an action, you want to enhance the pattern. So that helps not only to build tools for yourself and help with relapses, but it also helps just to build awareness around the fact that, okay, when something happens, I know that I have options. It might not be that you gravitate towards them. It might not be that you actually do the things that actually help you feel more centered. You might have a mental breakdown, and that will be it. And that's okay. But at least you will have also initiated another thought, right? That also still disrupts the pattern of just feeling a victim to all of your thoughts. Second bonus question is, what can I do when I feel I am trying to chase external gratification or approval, whichever? So of course this can happen in different scenarios. Sometimes it could be through like little things, but just reflecting on your intention will help. And also just knowing, oh, how can I snap myself back out of this, right? When you feel like you're doing something to impress, sometimes we do this like, say, for work purposes or whatever, but just understanding that, okay, no, that doesn't define me. I can still define myself. So asking yourself the question, what can you do in those moments? Last question is, what makes me feel like I am enough, right? So that goes further than just saying, hey, you are abundant, though you are resourceful, you are though. Is just actually asking ourselves a question of, those moments where you're like, oh, I'm in alignment. Oh yeah, that was great. Oh yeah, I'm feeling myself. Like, what makes you feel like that? What makes you feel empowered even, right? Ask yourself the question. Because how else are you supposed to feel this way if those things are not present in your life, right? How else are you supposed to feel this way if you're not embracing how much these things help you embrace the qualities that you would like to have, right? So whether that is in terms of discipline, work ethic, like maybe there's some things that actually make you feel like you're in that line, that alignment. But just being aware that those things are also tools. Maybe it's a workout training because you're building up the voices that are cheering yourself on, right? Because you have no choice but to cheer yourself if you want to get through a workout. So that helps, right? Just to build up those voices. So just understanding that, okay, this makes me feel empowered because this and that. Then you can also understand how does that also apply in different spheres of your life. And trust me, like the environment might not always be accustomed for you to feel this way, but it's your responsibility to make sure that you feel the most in line with your own terms. On this note, keep being you, your own breed, own all of what makes you you and unique. Yes, if you're working the hoodie right now, holla. Honestly, all those things are not necessarily easy. They're hard questions. And I mean, sometimes simple questions, but they're important for you to reflect on. So keep them close, keep your terms close. Understand that you're not perfect, all right? You won't, it's not just because you have them written down that your whole life will be butterflies and that you'll do it all the time. You'll actually be more faced with the duality that we all kind of carry in terms of doing things that we want. Yeah, because sometimes we know something is good for us and we do the opposite. So you'll be even more faced with that. But the thing is that at least you'll know. At least you'll have more awareness around it, and you'll actually be more aligned with yourself. You are your own breed. Be you. Do what works for you. Note what works for you. Know what doesn't work for you. But keep reminding yourself and build the tools that allow you to stay reminded. Alright? Alright. So, sur ce, everybody, have a good night. It's your girl, Anana. And yeah, you know what we do. Rise up and stay empowered. Take care.